member. I'll brag on him in a moment, but let me first brag on everybody behind me and members of the community. This is when California is at their best. I've seen it over and over and over again. At times of crisis, people coming together across their differences, regardless of jurisdictions, regardless of political backgrounds, people coming up, stepping up, and stepping in and filling voids that are left by the very nature of the scale of the challenges and disasters that we faced. Of course, this was the 11th atmospheric river of the year, this season. We're only in March. None of us naive about what we're looking forward to next week, potentially on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 12th atmospheric river. You look back the last few years in this state, it's been fire to ice and, no warm bath in between. This weather whiplash, the extremes that we are going through. If anyone has any doubt about Mother Nature and her fury, if anyone has any doubt about what this is all about in terms of what's happening to the climate and the changes that we're experiencing, come to the state of California. I was here when this region was in a different state of mind just a week or so ago. Here, of course, a few months ago, after the January storms as well. And it's quite sobering to be here with your sheriff, and what a remarkable job she has done, collaborative spirit, and her commitment and resolve to make sure we meet the moment and the state steps in and does its job. But to see the devastation, to see what I have seen here 48 hours after the peak of that devastation, I'm also mindful of. But nonetheless, we are very, very cognizant about the work ahead of us. And I'm not misled by the fact that the waters have receded. Quite the contrary. Nor am I going to mislead you by the fact that this state stands ready, as the chair of the board said, to be here when you're not, when the cameras are turned off, when you're focused on the next crisis, wherever it may be. We are committed to the long haul, and we're committed to this community. And you have my word on that. Certainly remarkable leadership that you have here with the Assembly member who's uniquely positioned to deliver on those promises and what we're promoting, Senator Laird as well. I should note, and I think it's important to acknowledge, 55, 58, 95, 98. You just think of 1995, close to $100 million in 1995 dollars of damage to lives lost. The question we're all having is, why are we as dumb as we want to be? Why wasn't this fixed, this levee, years and years, decades ago? There was a comment supervisor was making, said we were knocking on doors, and there was an 80-year-old young man who said, I got this. I've lived through 5 of these. And he said, no need for me to evacuate. He had the kind of experience that only failure provides, and the failure of a quality of imagination in partnership with the federal government to disabuse ourselves that we can continue down the path of not considering communities regardless of their economic status. And so I know that's been pointed to, and I want to be pointed in terms of responding to that. We have work to do to follow through on the commitments we have made, and I want you to know we're not reacting to those commitments. And I think this is important for folks to know. Assemblymember Rivas deserves enormous credit. He and Senator Laird drove legislation that I signed last year to provide upwards of $138 million of state money to fulfill the obligations for the local community to match the costs of the project to fix this levee. The challenge, you may know, many of you have written about it, some of you have talked about it, but I need to reinforce it, is that we have a project that requires a local match, not a state match, but a local match. 35% of the project has to be borne by the local community, 65% by the federal government. It's estimated, and this was before this storm, that the project's a $397 million project, of which $138 million needs to be borne by the local community. Recognizing that burden and the enormity of that, the legislature stepped up last year, and I was proud to support an effort where the state would move in and we would pick up the responsibility of the local government to the tune of roughly $138 million. Now, the challenge is, can't go like that overnight and fix this. And that's why it was soberly stated that we're looking at a 5 to 7 year process. Now, don't get me wrong, as we were just on the levee, I'm not satisfied any more than you are with 5 to 7 years. We know what's happened. Just in the last 5 months, you were this close in January, 3 months, 2 months ago, in terms of that levee breaching. It had not been for the work that was done by your local water agencies and support of some of the state agencies, we may have had an incident in January. We're not out of the woods. Again, the 11th atmospheric river on our way to the 12th, and we're only on the 15th of March. So that's priority number one. We also are working and have been working, and I have Carla Namath here who runs the State Water Project. We have been working with the Army Corps to move away from this mindset as it relates to that socioeconomic frame more broadly, because there are other communities, not just this community, that potentially will be impacted by similar analysis. We've got to change the way the federal government scores these projects to prioritize those communities that are most vulnerable, period, full stop. If you're California, our values flip to one where we focus, particularly as it relates to disaster response and disaster preparedness, from the lens of socioeconomics. That's the framework which we look to our work on wildfires. It's the aim to which we work as it relates to flood protection as well. The federal government we need to work more collaboratively with. We have put them on notice. I'm reinforcing it here today, not in reaction to this incident, but reinforcing it certainly after this incident, the imperative of moving in that direction. Number three, I recognize the imperative of what was stated. There are a lot of people here that are not immediately eligible for assistance. Folks out here that we're very mindful of. There's not a state in America, not one state, no other state that does more for farm workers in the state of California, and we don't do enough. Please include that. And we don't do enough. I want folks to know, you may know this, but it's important to reinforce today, March 15th, United Way was able to get $42 million from USDA, and they're starting to send out $600 checks for farm workers regardless of their immigration status. And they're working with United Way in Santa Cruz, and here in Monterey County, and in other impacted communities. 42 million is not enough, but I want to applaud the great work the United Way and their partner agencies, local agencies, as well as the larger CBO network and philanthropy that we're working with, as we do in these instances, to backfill and offset some of the immediate stress and costs as we work to stack a deeper understanding for FEMA so that we can work towards that major disaster declaration. I've done too many of these major disaster declarations in just 4 short years as governor. We're still assessing the damage to do that, and that's being assessed in real time. And I assure you, no one is more eager to promote that and get that established. And we've had direct conversations with the director of FEMA, not just the White House, and the president himself, who we talked to on Saturday, specifically about the circumstances here. That's more eager to provide that once we reach that threshold. Beyond that, we now do have an emergency deck that includes, as of yesterday, 43 counties of the 58 in the state of California. We do have, as I speak, 31 shelters that are operating in 14 counties in the state of California. And we continue to provide, in the short run, the kind of high water vehicles that you see around, and obviously the swift search and rescue teams and the work with CAL FIRE, where they're working in collaboration with the incredible, I call them all Swiss Army knives, National Guard, men and women, and the Conservation Corps and others to address not just this moment, to prepare for this weekend and the moments beyond. And I say the moments beyond in closing. I heard loud and clear stormwater capture. That's why I've done 2 executive orders on that front. That's why I did a water plan a few months ago. Please take a look, the 2040 water plan that comes out with numeric goals on groundwater storage, stormwater capture, and water recycling. And because of the legislative leadership of Assemblymember Rivas $8.6 billion to back that up. A plan, numeric goals, strategies, and money that's been set aside and is being invested and appropriated. And the priority now is time value of these projects. Get these projects moving. And that takes executive orders. Well, we just did 2. I don't want to have to do that in every case, but we've got to fast track these permits so we address that legitimate issue as well, so we capture more of the extremes. I'll close on that. I know this has been extremely stressful for everybody, and keep referring to it. It's a stacking of stress. Everything everybody's been through, not just with these storms of, 6 months ago was the drought. Then, 6 months prior, we were still in the midst, don't forget, of COVID and all the issues that disproportionately impacted the Latino community and communities like this. And so I just want to close by saying how proud I am you have a CAO and members of the Board of Supervisors that get it, but more importantly, get it in a very deep and emotional way. As we were talking in the back of the car, as we were driving the levee, how proud they are of this community, and the word over and over that was used, resilience. And so it's in that spirit of resilience and the spirit of recovery that we're here with great expectations, and expectations that will be met, and accountability with the state, federal, and local leaders that will be equally shared. With that, of course, all of us are here to answer any questions.
Governor, for many people, this flood was their worst fear realized. As you said, this is a known problem. It's been known for decades. The money is there to fix it. When can people expect to see construction on the solution?
Well, we've got the temporary fix. It's ongoing as we speak, and I say ongoing. They may have plugged it late afternoon yesterday. We still have to stack it in preparation of what may come.
You're just listening.